Hey Fitheads, today we talk with Joshua Church from Edge Theory Labs. Ooh, cold exposure, Max's favorite.
I feel it's my duty a little bit to go into these things as the voice of the skeptics, even though I'm
You
constantly
grilled
won
him.
over. I'm constantly won over by these, you
I
know what I
know, it
mean?
was great.
I go in being like, really? And then I walk out being like, wow, yeah, heck yeah.
I mean, it helps that he casually just did an Ironman triathlon and completely recovered from that using cold exposure. We talked about longevity with their cold plunges. There
Playing
was,
basketball as a 95-year-old.
yeah,
That's now on my to-do list also. It's to beat my grandkids at basketball.
not as toddlers, as
Right.
adults.
That was fun. I thought we talked a lot about breath work, which I thought was really interesting. When someone mentions Wim Hof, my eyebrows always shoot to the ceiling. But I think it was fun. I mean, he approaches things with like I'll try it, but I'm not going to go overboard. But I'm also going to see if the science supports it, and if it does, I'll commit to it. I think that's a really good approach to a lot of these things, and it was really fun to hear him talk about how that's his main strategy.
Yeah, it definitely got me amped to go plunge again.
Welcome to Total Fitheads.
Serious fitness for not so serious people.
So, welcome, Joshua. So glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
What's temperature in your house right now?
Oof, right now is probably 70 degrees, 69, 70 degrees.
Oh my goodness, that's freezing.
Not as bad. I have a friend that went, one of my mentors in the space. He went 3 years without taking any warm shower, or he didn't have any heat in his apartment in Amsterdam. So he literally was said during the winter, he would be like, you could see your own breath in his apartment. So that's a bit extreme. I'm not that extreme.
And he just lived like that?
Lived
Oh
like
my
that. Yep.
God.
And then he realized that there was a lot that he could learn from the heat as well. And the heat was a friend of ours. So, um,
Wow. I feel like I'd have to double my calories just to stay alive.
yep, probably.
That's not so. Okay, now I want to ask you about contrast therapy. But first, give us some background about you and how you got into the health and fitness space.
Yeah, really by complete necessity slash by accident. I was someone that I had a lot of injuries growing up and some pretty serious conditions and a couple surgeries that really forced me to build a relationship with my body and forced me on a healing path. By the time I was 18 years old, by the time I was 21 years old, I was living in chronic pain, had back pain. I had multiple knee surgeries. I had to have an emergency surgery to save my leg before amputation from a very rare thing called compartment syndrome. And then I had an appendicitis surgery, which is a pretty simple appendectomy procedure, except the doctor nicked an artery. So I was bleeding internally and was in the hospital for an extended stay, had to get blood transfusions. And so all that basically took me to this point when I'm 21 years old, just like literally on my knees in so much pain, chronic back pain from effects of my knee surgeries. And just like, what do I need to do? I'm overweight, I'm inflamed. I'm like, please, God, send me an answer, literally. And yoga appeared. So I did my first yoga class. It was a sculpt yoga class. And it was a good workout, but I remember after being like, "Oh wow, what was that feeling at the end? Shavasana, that was nice." Like first time my body felt actually like calm, and I felt just a little bit more at peace. So I continued doing more yoga. I ended up becoming a yoga instructor and going deep and down that rabbit hole, and then just kept following the learnings that led me to hearing this crazy guy named Wim Hof talk on this podcast and going out to Iceland to do a Wim Hof method retreat and discovering cold immersion and breath work and what that did for my healing, which there's more stories to go into there for sure. But it had changed my life entirely in that moment. So I came back and was just like, this is absolutely my path and my calling to share this with other people. So it was really by necessity, but I never was like, all right, I'm going to be in the health and wellness industry. It was never a desire for me.
And now you're well, you feel fit, you're
Thank
like
God. Yeah,
completely come
I
back.
just last Sunday I completed a full Ironman triathlon. So it was a big accomplishment for me given all the history that I just rattled off to be able to get to the place where doing 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a full marathon all in one day within 16 hours was even remotely possible, that level of endurance race. But I did it. I recovered. I feel great. And that was like a really big moment just recently, to kind of a full circle moment just on my journey of like how I can really build this relationship with my body and feel in communion with my body, and really heal from the inside out, I would say. And that's been my story, and that's been what I'm passionate about sharing with other people. These different tools that we can use to get more in tune with what our body's telling us, the wisdom that our body has, the intuition that is whispering to us, and what we need to be able to give ourselves to feel that connection, and to do ultimately whatever we want to desire to do.
When you're going through all of these, I mean, you rattled off like 9 horrific,
Yeah.
once in a lifetime things. How do you, at what point do you not, I mean, did you stay positive, or were you just like, this is my life? Or how do you not sort of get so down in the dumps? I feel like two of those things one of those things would make me horribly depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, I'd be like, all right, what's going on here? And then by the third or second and a half time, I'd really have sort
Yeah.
of a crisis of faith. Did you feel any of that, or did you just?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Absolutely. I mean, but that's also what has helped me develop such faith, such strong faith and resolve. And after, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is being around other like-minded people and friends who are able to help keep you up with that mindset, especially when you don't see it yourself. It's a lot easier to have a positive mindset and feel good and to know these, intellectualize these concepts when things are going well. It's another thing when you tear your MCL a second time, right? It's like it's another thing to be down in the dumps with that. But also with that, like every time that there is another blow to that of like, oh, seriously, here we go again, or it puts you down a negative rabbit hole or depression, there also is another thing that's strengthening, which is your resolve to know that I will be back, and like I will heal and I will recover. And I have evidence in my past to support that when I have something bad happen to me, that not only can I heal and get better and come back even stronger, but I may be able to in time see how that bad thing seemingly happening to me actually could be happening for me, and how it could lead to something that became meaningful to me, or it could lead to a relationship, or lead to a new tool that I learned, or lead to something else that I would in time actually come to have gratitude for. So in those moments, it's really, really tough, but surrounding yourself with the right people that are keeping your mindset up during those times, and having that belief and that vision and that faith, even when you don't yourself, essential. And then building that resolve within yourself, equally essential to be able to get through.
What was the toughest rehab? Was it MCL?
I would say it was doing I did the trifecta. So ACL, LCL, MCL, meniscus in one go from high school football.
Oh,
so just knee totally gutted. So I'm 17, and 9 months recovery was like 7 months before I could actually run again. And just getting the range of motion back, and then strengthening the muscles around. And I just remember and just after that surgery too, of just starting to train myself to walk again, I would be biting down on straws because I'd be in like so much pain. So that was a tough one, because and I was coming back to play my next season of football, high school football as well. So that was a really tough one structurally. The other ones were more traumatic injuries in the moment, easier recoveries, but that one was that was brutal. I don't wish that upon anybody.
It seems like you had a senior experience at like under 21. Like you were living in that body.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, because I literally had this, I mean, like what an unhealthy place to be in my mind, that I thought in high school, I remember this as a senior in high school, thinking I'm going to be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 30. Like that was a thought that I had in my mind. Like I walked around like I was an old man. Like we would sit up on a ledge eating lunch, and I would get down from the ledge, and I would hobble my way down and walk really slowly and kind of with a limp. And I literally felt like an old man in this body. And then after that next surgery that I had, I was like, this can't be the way that it goes. Like, I refuse to accept this. There's got to be another way. There's got to be a way that I can get better. There's got to be a way I can start to heal. There's got to be a way. There's so much more to life for me than just accepting this. I don't want to accept this. So that really started me on that internal journey, which of course eventually evolved to me being able to share that with other people as well. But I told you, you said it, you hit the nail on the head. It was that's exactly the way I felt.
So when you discovered Wim Hof, that sort of sound like sparked yourself coming out of this. Were there other stuff that you tried that didn't work that
That's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah, there definitely was. Let's see.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
you just got older?
Yeah, exactly. I did do, I would say, I did experiment with some plant medicines as well, and that was powerful in its own way for me in my journey, but it wasn't like any magic. There was no. I think that the mindset, what didn't work was trying to adopt the mindset of like, oh, this one thing will do the trick for me. So I went into plant medicine with that. I went into a bunch of things with that. I went into chiropractic work with that, acupuncture with that. And so I had gone through that, even yoga, right? It's like this one thing. And then I realized, wait, it's actually not about one. There's no one thing. There's no one pill. There's no one thing. It's about understanding your body and understanding what different things and combination of those things can help and can help you feel better. So I would say that was probably the thing that didn't work, is me thinking there's going to be one solution or one thing that can solve this.
Well, that ruins my next question, because I always wonder with people that practice Wim Hof, is the breathing or the cold exposure really the thing, or is, I guess, like you were saying, it's not just one thing?
It's a tool, right? That's why I look at it. It's a means to an end. It's not the end itself. So I think a lot of people you see are like, all right, I got to do my daily breath work. I got to do my daily ice bath. And that's great. If that works for you, amazing. Don't stop doing that. But to me, it's more of like, it's something that I can give myself when I need something. Like, why am I doing this in the first place? Right? That's what I'd like to ask. What am I trying to achieve, or what am I trying to optimize for? And that's big right now in cold water immersion as well, because people are like, yeah, getting the ice bath feels good and it's great for you. It's like, well, there's a lot of nuance there. That's one thing at Edge Theory Labs that we're always working on bringing in the form of scientific research, in the form of exploration of what's out there and practices and different protocols is, well, it's very different if you're trying to recover from an Ironman triathlon versus boost your metabolism to lose weight. Those are going to be very different ways you interact with the cold. Or if you're looking just for increased productivity or a boost of energy, or workout, pre-workout, or post-workout recovery, like those are very nuanced things for how you're going to use it. And same with breath work, like doing different types of breath work of nasal breathing for more down regulatory, or controlled hyperventilation for up regulatory. Like when you use those and why you use those are very, very different. So blanketing that entirely, I think it takes a level of education to understand that deeper. That's one thing I'm very passionate about bringing to people. But it's not just like, oh yeah, breath work is the key or cold is the key. It can be a really powerful tool. And for me, it was a game-changing tool. The combination of that and yoga were, I mean, some of my most powerful tools that I use. But I still view them as like tools in the tool belt versus like this is the path or this is the one way.
So it sounds like your protocol is probably recovery at this point right now.
Right now is recovery, yes. Even 10 days after the race, it's still recovery. Now I'm starting to shift into getting back into the gym and putting some muscle back on that I lost from, and some weight back on that I couldn't keep on during the training. So it's evolving for sure.
Oh, interesting. Were you trying to lose weight to get faster, or
No,
it was,
no,
okay.
Just
God,
Just
no.
happened.
during the race.
Just could not put enough calories in my body throughout a day to keep weight on. Just could not. Yeah.
I can't imagine doing 1/3 of that, and you did it all.
I know one of my friends said, it was pretty funny. She was like, she said when I woke up, she was tracking me on the app that you can track during the race day. She's like, when I woke up, you had already started to swim, and I fell asleep, and you were still running the marathon. And she's like, I woke up, I had a day, I had 3 meals, like I watched football, I went to the park, I went to the farmer's market, I did meal prep, I did all that. And during that entire time, you were still exercising. Like that makes me want to throw up. And she was like, doing anything for 16 hours is really challenging. Like sitting on the couch for 16 hours is tough. Like going on an airplane for 16 hours is really difficult. You're sitting there watching movies, but to exercise straight without stopping for 16 hours, like it put it into perspective. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's actually absurd. That's crazy. That's so stupid.
You're a crazy person.
Yeah.
Would you
Yep.
do it again?
I'm not going to do this again. No, I'm not going to do this again.
One and done. That
I'll
definitely seems like it.
one and done. It's a check the box. There's a funny video that my mom got from me coming as I was finishing the bike. It's like 5 o'clock, the sun's setting. And it's like, all right, cool. Now 7.5 hours on the bike. All right, time to go run a marathon, right? So I'm coming off the bike and I'm like, I stop to say hi and to say hi to my friends that are there. And the first thing I say, it's a funny video. I come up, I pull up. They're like, yeah, go Joshua. And I'm like, this is the stupidest sport ever. This is the stupidest thing ever. And she's like, you ready to be done? I said, yep, I'm 26.2 miles. I am ready to be done. But
At,
it served
at
a good
least,
purpose. It served a good purpose for me. And
yeah, at
and,
least
and I
you
think being
tried it.
able to exactly. And for me it was more than just like I don't love the sport. It's a cool sport and there's a lot to it. And endurance sports is its own kind of mental psychology of in itself, especially when you don't have headphones throughout the whole day as well. So you're in your head, you're in your breath. But for me it was more so of this aspiration and this goal of taking something that seemed so impossible and still wild, right? That I did that, but taking something that seemed so lofty, so impossible, especially when I started doing with my first, Olympic distance triathlon, which was like a quarter of that. Taking something that's so impossible and like just over time, over years, just slowly improving to the point where you're like, wow, actually, this is possible. And I think that all of us can relate to that in some pursuit, in some way. Anybody that's done anything noteworthy can relate to that entirely, which is just taking something that seemed impossible and making it to where it's like, this is actually possible. And not only possible, but doable. Not only doable, but I did it. And there's something so rewarding about that. So that to me was really what it was about, and less so like, all right, I'm going to go do another one now and cut my time down or do better on the bike or
Right,
train more.
totally.
It's like, I have no desire to do any of that. I have no desire for that.
You got a good picture at the finish line.
Oh, yeah. Great
Okay,
video,
so
great
then
picture coming through.
yeah, you're set.
That's it. And I got the medal right here.
Let's
That
go.
looks
There we go.
chocolate. Looks chocolate to me. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Wait, is it because you can't wear headphones that most people
Yeah,
don't?
correct. You get disqualified if you wear headphones. Um, pro
Because listening to
probably.
Britney Spears is cheating? I agree.
Yeah, that's what we call performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
Listen to Britney Spears while you're power. No, I think it's twofold. One is safety, so that especially on the bike course, so that you're able to hear people when they're passing you, and so I think safety is a big component of it. And then also you could technically be getting coaching. It's wild, but like you
You
could be
running?
communicating with
Yeah.
other people.
Run
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
nice.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Run faster. Good. Cycle
Okay,
harder.
you're
Right.
running.
Yeah.
You gotta check
Yeah.
in
It's so
first.
funny. It's so funny. But you could be communicating with other people and like drafting in the
Yeah,
bike, which
yeah.
actually makes a big difference, or like getting coaching around your stride or where, pacing, stuff like that. So I think the combination of
Yeah.
those two things is they don't allow it.
And what about the super shoes? Do they allow those? With
The super shoes. What are the super shoes?
The Vaporflies were, I thought,
Those are allowed.
disqualified for. Okay, yeah,
Those are allowed. I believe. Yeah. There wasn't any ruling around regulation around what kind of shoes you can wear.
interesting.
Yeah.
So how does that, now having finished one, carry over into life? It's just everything easy. You're like, oh, an hour-long podcast.
That's so funny. That's a great question. I think, yeah, definitely. One of the biggest things that's present right now is I was just like, I'm just thinking, I have so much time on my hands, and I didn't have a whole lot to fit this in as well with having a startup and launching this business, which is this is his own. I have my own toddler now with this business, so. My cousin, who's my co-founder, he was doing it with me, and we were just like, I mean, through the last 6 months, we were like, what the hell? Why did we decide to do this? This was so stupid. This was
Who's
ill-advised.
running the company?
But yeah, exactly.
I need those headphones. I gotta make these calls while I'm on the.
And it's so funny. My grandma, she's this Moroccan Jewish immigrant. She's this old lady, and she was like so worried. She was like, who's running the business while you guys are doing this? Like, you guys took off to go to Arizona to do the triathlon. Like, who's running the shop? Who's doing the business? And we're
opening
like,
the shop?
Grandma. It was so sweet. We were like, it's online. She was like, couldn't understand that people like could go purchase online without us being there to like operate, right? It was so sweet. But it's really nice right now to be able to have, like this morning, I was like, I'm gonna go to the beach for sunrise and go in the ocean and do a little yoga breath work on the beach. Like, I'm gonna do that. Like, cool. I'm gonna socialize with friends again. But there's something interesting about that to me that I think can other people can relate to, is that when we put our full focus towards a goal or towards something and put energy, like for me for years, there's been this focal point and energy towards completing this full Ironman triathlon. And now that it's done, I still have this, that is collapsed. And now that stream is unplugged. And now I have all this creative energy and time to be able to put towards whatever I want to do next. And that's really exciting and fun. So I think that when we can focus on and understand that, of we have a finite amount of energy, is a finite resource for us. It's like an iPhone battery. We have a finite amount of hours and finite amount of things that we can put our energy towards. So we can, when we consciously put that towards something, we can accomplish something incredible and amazing and something that we thought was impossible. And so now I have all of that potential now that I'm like, cool, where do I want to focus this energy next? Which is fun.
Have you
Yeah.
decided you can take up knitting?
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, there's a couple things that come to mind. I'm excited to start surfing again. I'm excited to play basketball again because I've had to pause both of those things by just from a timing standpoint, and also get back into weightlifting in the gym. So those are three things, plus focusing on more mobility. So like hip mobility, ankle mobility, some more kind of longevity practices for myself so I can keep doing these crazy things late into my 90s and early hundreds. So that's my focus. So those are a couple of things that I'm focused on. And then also outside of the physical, more creative stuff. I'm working on writing a book right now. So putting more creative energy towards that. And then the business can just suck up everything else.
And of course, back to drinking again. Did you start?
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't drink. I don't drink much. I drink a handful of times a year. And training for triathlon will definitely humble you on that too. I have one beer, and I'm like, my tolerance is so shot. It's so funny. I have one beer. I'm hammered off of one beer. I have one IPA. I'm like, the room is spinning, which is a far cry from my early 20s and my college years. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Cheap date. He does much. He does Ironman.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, okay, let's talk about the longevity thing, because triple digits, that's impressive. That's the goal.
Absolutely. I think that we all should be setting that as a goal. And that, I mean, my ultimate goal is that I want to be playing basketball competitively with my grandkids. Like when my grandkids are like in their 20s. Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
sorry, I was
20s.
thinking toddlers.
Yeah. Just swat it. Yeah. Yeah, that too. That comes as a given. But I think that for me, I look at longevity as a big focal point. I think a lot of people are starting to focus more on longevity now, because it's not only like I don't want to just do what I'm doing now, but I want to do it for a long time. Like I see my father, he's in his mid 60s, and his body is like totally shutting down. Like his knees, he was a marathon runner. He's run his knees down to the bones, like had 2 knee replacements, had back spinal fusion, and he never prioritized doing PT or doing recovery, any sort of recovery. And you can see what happens. So like, and he keeps telling me, he's like, this is what's coming soon to you. And I refuse to take that on and believe that. And that's also part of the reason I invest so deeply into recovery, into my longevity, because I want to be able to experience a level of vitality as long as I possibly can, and into my 90s, certainly into my early hundreds. That's my goal. I want to be able to do that. And I see people that are doing that serve as that example. And so I think, well, if that's possible, then it can be possible for me too. So that's the story that I choose to tell myself. And I talk about it as a matter of fact of like, of course we're going to be active. I'm going to be surfing at 95. Like I want to do something fun for my 100th birthday. Like I want to run a marathon for my 100th birthday or something like that. That's what I'm putting out there.
Maybe a half marathon.
Maybe.
It's interesting because your dad kind of has the opposite problem of most older adults, that he was working out and he used his body too much, versus most people into old age actually need to be more active.
Good
and
point.
so that's And is there a longevity specific protocol for cold exposure?
Cold exposure in general is fantastic for longevity, and sauna. That's where contrast really comes into what the clinical research on what sauna does for reducing all cause mortality and increasing your lifespan and heart health. Fantastic, and also breath work as well. Like we have 12 pounds of breathing muscles in our body, our diaphragm. Like we have 12 pounds of breathing muscles that most of us don't work or don't understand how that it works, and it influences the rest of our body. Our rib cage mobility is such a key indicator for our lung health and and any respiratory disease we get is our mobility of our rib cage and our diaphragm strength. So there is a study. The one correlation that they found in a study with lifespan is lung capacity, total lung capacity. It's the only correlation they found in studying lots and lots of old people that are healthy. Lung capacity or total lung capacity. And after I think 28 or 30, your total lung capacity starts going downhill, right? But that's a huge thing. So breath work is key for longevity. How we can breathe and how we can use our breath and to influence the rest of our physiology and bring oxygen to different parts of our body. So breath, cold, amazing with getting that metabolic value and the metabolic boost from doing cold immersion and doing a difficult thing and getting that neurochemical spike in adrenaline and norepinephrine and dopamine. That's amazing for longevity, as well as just the actual acute recovery from any soreness that you might have, or muscle recovery, muscle inflammation, and just systemic inflammation, right? Inflammation is the root of all modern disease. And so when you can do these certain practices like cold helps reduce inflammation. So if you can reduce inflammation on a systemic level, then you're going to help your chances of being able to stay active and disease free as you get into older age, along with all the mental health out there. And we're just scratching the surface in some of these studies, and something I'm personally interested in is pioneering more scientific research, because there's a lot of blind spots when it comes to cold, when it comes to breath, that I think can really inform people on some of these protocols.
Yeah. And isn't it, I've heard that doing cardio doesn't actually increase your lung capacity. You just get more efficient at using oxygen, right? So
That's
it is
right.
breath
That's right.
work, or swimming, holding your breath underwater would help. Yeah.
Yeah. There's certain breathing techniques, breathing patterns, breathing exercises that you can do, really diaphragmatic breathing to help increase that total lung capacity.
Yeah. Interesting. So you do contrast therapy. You're going from hot to cold. You're a fan?
So good. Best. It's so good. I love it. I do it all the time. Yeah, you just feel so. Have you done some of that?
I have. I don't have a sauna next to a cold plunge, but when I do get the chance to do it, it's cool or
Yeah,
hot.
super good. Both. It's contrast. So we have in our office, we built out a really cool office with all this fun gear and recovery tech. We got a sauna, we got an 8-person sauna. We've got cold tubs, of course. We've got oxygen therapy, EWAT system, exercise with oxygen therapy that mimics altitude or pure oxygen for doing workouts with. We got a full workout setup, Normatec boots, Hyperice, all the fun stuff. And I do oftentimes a couple times a week, we'll do a contrast session. So we'll do sauna and then get out, let your body regulate for a sec, and then go cold. And then you can do that a couple cycles. But even just doing a one cycle, you just feel so good after. You just feel your body is just like buzzing. And I always get the best sleep after I do a session like that. You just feel like, oh, you just feel that release, like that weight. Your shoulders are just dropped down. You're just way more in your body. So it's fantastic. That contrast therapy just feels so good.
Is it doing anything?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Or does it just feel good? I mean, there's a lot of things that
Max
feel
is a little
Yeah.
good.
skeptical.
It's true, both. So what happens when you're in the heat is what's called vasodilation. So your whole vascular system, your blood vessels, your artery, your veins, everything opens up, right? Heat opens up. So we start heart rate increases, we start sweating. So when you're in the heat alone, it's like everything opens and you're getting this opening, you're getting a sweat, you're getting a detox. Fantastic. That alone is fantastic. And then you go into the cold, and the cold is vasoconstriction. So the opposite of vasodilation. So your whole vasculature is constricting, it's closing. And what that does is that helps with the inflammation, flushing, of course, too. And then when you open back up to the heat, you're going vasodilation again. So you're going constricting, dilation, constricting, dilation. So what that's doing is you're essentially doing a cardiovascular flush for your body. So you're flushing your you're draining your lymphatic system, you're getting a whole vascular flush, you're circulating your blood through, your heart's working. It's like a whole cardiovascular workout from just sitting there in the sauna and then going into the cold and breathing. It's like you're getting a whole full body workout on that vascular level from your blood vessels and your arteries from just sitting there and being there. So that's what drives that great feeling, and that feeling of like relief after, because then your body gets back to that homeostasis and you're like, okay, I don't have this stressor that's on. So these are what we refer to as hormetic stresses. And a hormetic stress is conscious dose of stress. Stress is really good for us. It's called a bad rap, but stress in the right way, hormetic stress, is really good because our body goes on and works, activates, and it cuts a lot of the fat. It cuts a lot of the stuff that doesn't serve you anymore to clean up house, and then you're able to relax, and then you're able to switch off. So it's like most of us though are in the state of chronic stress, where we're in the digital age, we're walking around, we're overstimulated. And so it's like we've just got a constant drip of cortisol through our bloodstream. And that leads to inflammation. That leads to things like obesity. That leads to a lot of different things, having that constant source of drip of cortisol and stress. But when we can take that conscious dose of stress through like a workout, a HIIT workout, or a sauna or cold, we're basically just like hitting a reset on our nervous system. Breath work does that too. We're like hitting reset. So instead of the switch being like somewhat on always, we're like punching it up and then turning it back off so that our body can actually turn it back off after, and we return to that baseline.
It's like what you were saying, Max, about like, are you really in fight or flight mode? It's like, no, you're not. You're partially there, just steady
just
drip of
right.
bad.
Right. But your body perceives that you are. It has no difference, right? It doesn't know the difference between like the stress from an email that you get to a saber-toothed tiger around the corner of your bathroom. And so you're going to feel that same response, and your body doesn't know the difference. So we have to like actually train our body with real stress, like going into freezing cold water or really hot temperatures, or pushing our body in a workout to be able to train our body and like, oh yeah, this is stress. The other stuff is not stress. So we increase our stress capacity as a result of that, which is one of the best benefits you see from cold immersion, is people's stress tolerance increasing measurably.
Oh, really? That's cool. How are you following up with
How do you measure
users?
stress
How do you measure stress?
Subjectively, yeah, qualitatively, yeah, through various through different research and just personal experience and other experience from other users. It's like what we refer to as widening the aperture, widening the context, or your capacity to be able to handle stress. Because when I get into my ice bath that's on my balcony right behind me every morning, stressful, puts my body in stress, raises the bar up here. So then the other stuff doesn't quite get me as much. And I realize that. And if you talk to people who actively do cold plunging, that's one of the benefits that they'll tell you first and foremost. For people that do it consistently, it's one of the things that's widely seen from a benefit standpoint pretty quickly.
I'm gonna start a competing company where we just put saber-toothed tigers in your home. You don't need to do an ice bath.
I love
you got
it.
Your tiger. It's self-cleaning, it's got a filter.
It's like in The Hangover where they go into the bathroom and there's a tiger in the bathroom. It's like that.
Yeah, I like that. We'll only rent them. It's like Netflix, but for saber-toothed tigers. Stick with me.
You'll live to 100.
I love it. Exactly. That's great.
So you go every day on your deck and ice bath when you get up. Coffee first?
Yes. No, I wait till coffee after. That's kind of the reward. Coffee after.
Okay.
And it's great too, because I mean, again, we're talking about clinical research that shows a boost of a norepinephrine 530%. Like that's adrenaline. That's what wakes you up. 530% repeatedly. Dopamine 250%. So we're really drastically impacting our neurochemistry. in a way that wakes us up, that makes us feel good, that closes a dopamine loop from us doing something difficult. We feel that reward after of every morning. I don't want to get in the ice bath, but I do it and I feel great after, and it's instant. So that's part of the reason too. I like to do that before coffee too, because then I find myself like I don't necessarily need that cup of coffee. I love coffee. I have a cup every day, if not nearly every day. But there's other ways to be able to give myself what I need. If I want to feel alert, I want to wake myself up, I can do that in other ways too. I don't have to be dependent or reliant on something.
So I shouldn't feel bad if it sucks every time. I'm not trying to get
Oh no,
okay.
it sucks every time. That's the point. And that's why I think that's why it's able to be repeatedly. Like you're able to see these results repeatedly, and you're able to feel the dopamine repeatedly and not diminish over time. Like there's no tolerance. Like you don't build up a tolerance. You don't need to take like a tea break from ice bath. Like, you don't build up a tolerance to it because it still sucks every time. That's what I think, at least, and that's just my suspicion.
Yeah. So
I almost hate to ask. Do you have a
Do
morning
it.
routine?
Why do you hate to ask?
Because I think I'm by default, I would say, a skeptic, and I think that I agree with and believe a lot of these things. But the more these sort of hacking slash biohacking slash
gurus.
whatever is trending on Instagram video reels hacking, eventually my morning routine, it turns into like a 12 or 15 hour routine, and then I'm like, all right, great, morning routine's done, now I can go to bed. you know so I
Totally.
like to know I'm interested, but I think it's coming from a skeptic, which I think is only
Yeah.
fair to tell you where I'm coming from.
No, I appreciate that. And I totally relate to that as well. Like, I'm not going to be selling you my $1 million morning routine that's like 12 steps and 5.99
Right, because it's
online.
actually 9 steps, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Black Friday.
No, I got deep into the personal development world too as part of my growth process. And I also, like you, I at one point where my whiteboard over here was just like filled with, like, I'm not even kidding, like 9 or 10 things of things to do in the morning. And I would check them off and check them off. And then it got to a point too where I would miss a couple, or I would miss a morning, and then I would feel really shitty about it. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
and then I would feel shitty about feeling shitty about it, right? And you kind of go down this rabbit hole. I'm like, this is so counter the point. I kind of woke up one day, I'm like, wait, isn't this supposed to make me feel good and like set me up for success? Like this is having the
Yeah.
opposite effect. So like, screw that. I don't want to think about it that way anymore. So there was a big mental shift that happened too. And I stopped thinking about it as morning routine, and I started thinking about it as morning ritual. And they're similar words, but slight difference. Ritual is something that I feel that word makes me feel like you have your heart into it. A ritual is something sacred. It's something that you look forward to. It's something that is ceremonial almost. And so that's what I intend to bring into my morning in whatever small dose I can. I don't have a morning routine. I don't have something that I do every single day. There are a couple tools. Again, I look at it that way. One way that a mentor painted the picture that I loved is he was saying, like, every day is a blank canvas and you have your palette of colors here, and you get to paint that canvas whatever you want. And today you could paint it full of red and blue because those feel really good. But tomorrow, red could not feel good at all. And you want to use the yellows or greens. So rather than being like, all right, these are the things I'm going to do every single day, it's like I think about more of like, what's the function? And there's multiple ways or colors or tools to reach that function. So every morning I wake up like, I want to feel grounded. I want to feel present. I want to feel awake. And I want to feel grateful. Like those are a couple of things I want to feel to start the day before I start going down my emails or to-dos or everything else like that. Like I want to get centered with myself before I go to the outside world. And so for me, a couple of tools that I love that I've been using pretty much on the daily: journaling, just being able to have that check-in with myself, and doing some sort of breath work, even if it's just taking like 5 deep breaths when I first wake up, or just full belly breaths, or just waking up my lungs and my breathing muscles. So doing some form of breathing, some form of journaling or self check-in, meditation can be part of that. Some days not. and then some form of movement and body movement, even if it's just doing a couple simple cat cows or yoga stretches, or just getting the spine moving, or it's doing an ice bath. Ice bath has become a pretty solid staple as well. But I don't know if that answered your question because I don't really have a morning routine. It's just it's some of these things, it's just creating that time and that space for me to be able to activate, as I like to say.
Yeah, it seems pretty level-headed, and it's funny that you went through that same thing that
Yeah,
Max did, where it's like, this is making me feel like crap.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, wait, that's counter the point. Like, it should make you feel good. So, like, why am I doing this? Like, it becomes dogmatic. It becomes like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And then again, you spend half your day trying to do the thing, and it just misses the point.
Yeah. And my journaling was like, okay, good, I'm journaling. Now next I'm gonna do blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now one is bleeding into the other and everything's all just a muddled mess. It's not good.
Yep.
But how often are we jumping in the tub?
It's pretty much daily. The only time that it's not is if I'm traveling, really. So I'll do it if I'm not doing a workout in the morning. I'll do it first thing when I wake up. If I'm doing a workout, I'll do it post workout, even if it's just a quick dip. Oftentimes it's twice a day because I'll do it again for like sauna or ice bath at the end of the day before bedtime action. So it's on average, it's certainly once a day. But if I'm traveling or I mean, I'm lucky because I have an ice bath on my balcony and at my office. So it's like it's really because there's cold, clean
Just
water
get
ready for
in full
whenever, so it's
suit.
really accessible. What'd you say?
Just get in full suit.
Yeah,
Suit. I
yeah,
imagine you go to the office in a suit.
yeah. That's far from it.
Yeah,
Our office.
can we develop
Uh,
a tub with wheels on it? That way you can
there you go.
Drive to
There you
work.
go. In the ice bath, it's perfect.
Wait, you said even if it's a quick plunge, who's doing a
Yeah.
long one? What's a long one?
Along like a deeper cooling would be like 6 to 15 minutes kind of range.
15. That's
Yeah.
record breaking for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't. I'll do that if I'm like if I'm doing something specific. Like I did a lot of long cooling when I was in recovery mode from the Ironman. But typically for me, I'm like I don't time myself anymore. It's like usually around 90 seconds to 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe if I'm inspired or feeling good. But a quick dip might be like 60 seconds. It might be like get in, dunk my head, catch my breath, dunk my head again, catch my breath, and get out.
Do you always do whole head?
Yeah, gotta love the head dunk. Head
Oh,
dunk's great.
that's psycho. And
But
wait,
also I'm not in
afterward. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm also not going at crazy. I don't go at crazy cold temps like some people do. I'm my preferred temp range, and part of the reason I love the edge tub as well is because you can set exactly the temperature you want, so it doesn't have to be like freezing cold or way too warm. So I my temperature range I like is like the high 40s is kind of the sweet spot for me right now. Sometimes I go colder when I go to Iceland and do retreats out there. We're leading a retreat in Jackson Hole coming up in January. Like we're going to cold water, natural water that's moving. Like that's icy and that's fun. And in nature, I like it that cold. But when I'm in my tub, like that upper 40s, low 50s is enough to scratch the itch and make it somewhat manageable.
Is there any research on what would be optimal? I imagine that probably depends on your goals too.
There is research. It's interesting where the some of the things I was citing around a lot of the neurochemical benefits and the increase in energy and this and that and dopamine, those were done at temperatures of 57 Fahrenheit or 14 degrees Celsius, which is not that cold. Like the Pacific Ocean
Only.
gets colder in the wintertime,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah.
not that cold. And there's other research paper that suggests that we can benefit from cold shock activation in temperatures as mild as 68 Fahrenheit. So really, that's pretty mild to be able to go into. So
That's your house right now.
55, Yeah, exactly. 55 is generally good, is a good starting point for beginners that I like to recommend, because it's cold enough. It's going to give you the cold shock when you start, and then you start to build adaptation. You build brown fat. You build, adaptation, just like we're very good at doing that as humans. And so you'll start to bring the temperature down or increase your duration to get to that sweet spot, what feels good for you. And it's different for everybody. And again, it depends on your goals too.
And
And
also, can
now,
for the record, there's a too long. When do we get towards the dangerous territory? And because I know, I don't know if you heard, there was I think it was Kevin Hart, but it might have been somebody else, but they were doing an interview show where they were sitting in an ice bath, and they would do it for like, they would record the show, and it was ended up being they'd sit in there for like, I think it was over an hour, and then
Yeah.
there's a big, sort of backlash to be like, hey guys, this is actually like really dangerous, and you're also interviewing some of the
Yeah.
greatest athletes on the planet. Like, maybe you should
Yeah.
take a look at that. What was the? Have you heard about that, or was the?
I didn't hear about that in particular, but yeah, you can reach hypothermic states, right? Like hypothermia is a real risk when
Yeah,
when your core body temperature drops below a certain point. So the if you're in an ice bath and you're able to be really present and you're not shivering or shaking and you're able to be responsive, you're talking, you can go for a long time. Like I think Wim Hof's done 2 hour ice baths. Like you can go for a long time. I know people have done very, very long ice baths, but that's a deep state of meditation. That's a deep state of focusing your body. That's a very sacred space that's not easy to go to. So it's not just like a blanket like, oh, this is the point where it's too long, because everybody has different fat stores, different ways of creating heat within their body, thermogenesis. So everybody is different in that. But my general rule of thumb is when I see somebody that is shivering uncontrollably or shaking, like that's the early stages of hypothermia. So it's easy. There's later stages too, where you start to see like lips turn purple or slurred speech.
yeah,
So there's later stages that are still you can get people out of, but I like to get it very early on because there's no point. You can always get back in. So it's different, but in terms of timing, like anything over, I mean, again, people could start displaying those signs 5 minutes into an ice bath, but
yeah,
as you start going deeper into 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes is typically where for the average person, around 10 minutes to 15 minutes is just purely from what I've observed is where you start to see some of those early signs.
yeah. So to all the hardos out there,
No,
it's
no, you
dangerous.
don't need to. I mean, it's look, let's be real. It's sexy and it's what sells is going into a ice bath with ice floating around you, but and being in there, 10 minutes, like
Yeah,
we like to say, there's no ego involved in this practice. Like, leave the ego at the door, because there's no if the research supported that, great, I'm all for it. But the research does not, in fact, support that. Like I'm all about minimum effective dose. Like, why would you want to suffer for longer, go colder if you don't need to? If there's nothing that suggests that that's actually going to help you more, like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I have a personal vendetta around the ego that gets involved in in the cold practice.
So I've had experiences with that and with sauna too. Oh, you're only in
Mm,
there for. I'll stay in longer than you, and I'm like, yeah, go for it, man. Knock yourself out.
totally,
I'm gonna take a
that
shower.
sauna
totally agree.
sucks more, honestly. I feel like 20 minutes in a sauna is excruciating. And isn't
Mm.
that what they recommend too? And now those studies about dementia and Alzheimer's, like you were talking about, that it should be 20 minutes 4 times a week. I tried that and I'm like, I don't have enough week left.
Yeah.
I got to train for my
Yeah,
Ironman.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and then you see people like Larry Hamilton. I thought this is pretty badass, but he's in his sauna at like 200 degrees with his assault bike and oven
Oh
mitts
my
on
god.
and cranking on the
Oven
assault
mitts.
bike. Yeah,
Oh,
oven mitts because it's
Really?
too hot. It's too hot to touch the bike, and and
oh,
and
that's so
Oh,
that's
funny.
double whammy. That's double whammy because when you're moving the assault bike, it's kicking up air and it's moving
Yeah.
the air, and so when the air is moving, it's like hot air is hitting you. That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
that's
he made his
ridiculous.
own air fryer.
Yeah, exactly. His personal air fryer, it's strips of bacon hanging there.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of self-serving question because I stay cold so long after I get out. How do you heat up? Do you do like end
Mm.
with the heat? Do you let your body come back to temperature? And how long are you sitting in that discomfort before you're like, yeah, I burned calories and now I'm fine?
I love it. That's a great question. We've championed what we call our three-staged approach to goal-oriented cold water immersion. So there's three stages or three approaches that three phases that we bring to every immersion, and we teach our community, teach people. Stage one is pre-cooling, so it's when you're standing by the side of the tub before you're ready to get in. It's a great moment to like center, to calm, because typically you already start to feel a little bit of adrenaline drip coming on, happening, a little nerves, anxiety. So just centering with that, breathing with that, being with that, maybe doing a couple box breaths or physiological sighs to be able to calm yourself and make it a choice to go in. Like you want to make it a choice. Your body does so much better when you're like, all right, I'm choosing to do this, and here's why. I'm going to bring intentionality to it. So that's stage one. Stage two is the cooling. So stepping in the ice bath, breathing, being with yourself, regulating your system as you're in there. And then for whatever your goal or desired duration is. And then stage three is when you get out. And most people get out and they go right to the towel, and there's no stage three. So stage three is really important for that reason, is because it's a chance for you to recenter and to help your body get back to homeostasis, because your body's coming out of shock. And the benefit of cold water immersion happens when you get out. It happens when your body temperature heats back up. And so we like to do a series of different body weight squats, some certain arm movements. You see from the Wim Hof community, he does the horse stance. So you're in like a wide-legged heels and toes out squat, and you're doing some arm kind of Tai Chi movements to activate your shoulders and your arm muscles and your core and your obliques to really just start to jumpstart and bring some blood flow back to your body. So that helps tremendously. If you were to do a couple body weight squats, get the glutes fired up, get your shoulders activated, get back to your breath, stay with your breath, you would notice that you feel so much better after. But what can happen is kind of what you're referring to is what we call after drop, which can happen when you're not present and your core body temperature then starts to warm back up, but your body's all confused, or you put yourself into a warm hot tub or sauna right away, or put the clothes back on, you get the shivers, and you'll start shivering for a long time because your body's super confused. It's just like, wait, we were just super cold and now warmed up, and your blood vessels open back up, and now that cold blood starts to circulate through your body that was at your extremities. So doing some movement really helps. And I always like to end on cold, even if it's short, because when you end on cold, your body's going to burn calories and work to heat itself back up like a furnace. And so that's good for a metabolic effect, for fat burning, if that's one of your goals. But if not, just to allow your body to naturally warm back up, it helps a lot with the circulation happening naturally. And then it also will, it's going to be great because it's going to promote wakefulness. So when we wake up, our body temperature is a little bit lower than when we're at peak awake state. And so when you do the cold in the morning, then it actually helps you wake up, and it actually increases your body temperature. So it allows your furnace to heat back up. So that's a couple of pointers that I have to offer there.
Yeah, I definitely need to do the squat and punching. I didn't do that. That definitely happened to me
It's
where
wild.
I'll not that I just like immediately get in a shower or whatever, but I'll get back dressed and just like for another hour, my fingers are purple. I'm like struggling to get back to warm. So maybe do some Only
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, and just even just taking a moment to be with your body, like it sounds super woo woo. We like to say we're just woo, we're not woo woo, we're just one woo, but it sounds super woo woo. But just being able to like be with your body and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to take a couple deep breaths. I'm going to visualize blood flow coming back to my hands. I do this all the time. It's so wild. It's crazy. Like I've taken a hand, my finger that just the other day, it was white still from being after the cold plunge. And I just like sat with it. I just breathed and I looked at it, and I just visualized all of the blood vessels opening up and like blood coming from my heart all the way through my arteries down to my fingertips. And I watched as the color slowly started to come back. Absurd.
Whoa.
I've worked with people that have severe Raynaud's, where their hands stay white or purple and they lose feeling. And over the course of a week in Iceland, doing deep work with them, with that visualization work, with that breathing, completely healed, completely were able to go in the
No
cold and
way.
have blood flow come back, able to play guitar out in the cold now,
Oh
like
my God.
life-changing stuff. And that's all about that
What?
mind-body connection. Absolutely.
That's nutso. I have it bad enough where like if it's a cold day in LA, I can't use my keys to open the
Okay. Of
door. But like what they say, all the doctors are like, stay away from the cold. That's
course.
gonna make it worse. Don't you dare let your hands get cold. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, right?
Wow.
Very interesting. Happy to jam with you more on that later offline too, because
Yeah,
I've seen
sure.
it happen multiple times. Like I'm talking severe Raynaud, severe.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I can talk about this for days. This is my fun. This is my world. Thanks for letting me share.
Like, yeah, I know we could do another hour. Next time, when you're in LA,
Next
we'll have
time.
to do it in person.
I love it. We'll make that happen. Yeah, we could talk. We go down the rabbit hole if you want to go down the rabbit hole. This was very surface level. If we want to go down the rabbit hole into some of these other crazy mind body connectivity practices and wild things that I've seen and witnessed personally, we can have that combo.
I don't know if we're ready for two woos yet, just one.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stick with one.
Just a couple more O's on the first woo.
That's great. Okay, so where can the fit heads find Edge Theory Labs and you?
Absolutely. Our website, of course, edge3labs.com. Instagram is really our main platform for where we are sharing and educating. So we also have an Edge Theory Labs podcast. I also have a personal podcast called Find the Others, all about finding other like-minded people and having deep conversations. So you can find me in those places on Instagram at Joshua Dean Church. Instagram's probably like the best main point of contact for both Edge and myself personally.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
And thank you to the fit heads. If you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out a whole lot. And we'll see you next week.